Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
You are listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. This is episode 330, and the date is January 9th, 2014. So I finally made it to see the famous doctor, interventional cardiologist. You're probably familiar with him, Chauncey Crandall, MD. He just happens to be located in Palm Beach, Florida. I heard an audio presentation that he did off of one of the sites. I don't know. I was just looking. He was trying to sell his newsletter, which I think is very valuable. And they're mentioning, he's mentioning that he's at the Palm Beach Gardens Hospital. And I said, my God, the guy's got to be really close to me. So rather than getting his newsletter or whatever, I think I'll go see him. And since I got my new insurance, and insurance turns out to be like the best policy, I've never had lower copays, better doctors on a network. So it took me 6 months to get in to see the guy, and he is amazing, I have to say. As an interventional cardiologist, he's trained in Yale. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but he did over 40,000 cardiac procedures. His story is a pretty amazing one. He was studying anthropology, lived with primitive cultures, and one thing he learned was that some of these primitive cultures, they didn't eat meat, and the only time they did was during festivities. He was He traveled to the West African nation of Togo to study the Cabra tribe, and they lived on a diet of cereals, fruits, and vegetables. And heart disease is almost unknown among them. And he got interested in specializing in cardiology during his medical training, and he volunteered to assist in cutting-edge research. And he did over 40,000, maybe it's up to 50,000 cardiac procedures. And in 2002, he basically had a cardiac episode, and it turned out that he had an artery that was 99% blocked. He wound up having to get emergency angioplasty, and he got 2 stents. And his training with this tribe came back to him, and he said, why can't I reverse this? And he wrote a book. He hit upon a way of reversing heart disease, and basically through diet, exercise, and lifestyle. So finally got in to see him, gave me his book called The Simple Heart Cure, and it's the 90-day program to stop and reverse heart disease. Thank God I don't have any, but one of the things he wants you to do, if you get the book, first thing is go to simpleheart411.com. So I finally get in to see him. He's a really nice guy. I told him how I've lost all the weight, but I'm still on a couple of pills that I want to get off of. Takes my weight, take a cardiogram, all my vitals. I have blood work done already for him when I walk in, and he says, look, you got to lose another 10 pounds. And I look really good for me. I have to say, I look in the mirror and I can't believe the person who's looking back at me. I haven't looked this good in 20 years. But, it's not for aesthetics. It's not for ego. It's just a question of, if I want to get off these drugs, I got to lose another 10 pounds, period. So I said, hey, you're the expert. My insurance company's paying you all this money. So if I'm going to see you, then I got to listen to your advice. So I've decided that I'm going to lose another 10 pounds. I go back to see him in April. So that's another 3 months. And in 3 months, I will have lost another 10 pounds. So totally reasonable. I mean, I'm going to lose the 10 pounds not because I'm going to look any better. In fact, I don't think I'm going to look as good when I lose that 10 pounds. Other thing he told me is, you got a vitamin D deficiency. You need to be taking 5,000 units of vitamin D daily. That'll help protect you against cancer, heart disease, vitamin D. He said also it's a mood thing. If you get like infrequent bouts of depression or you're down, he said he's given it to patients who've had these mood swings, depressions, and they snap out of it within like a couple of weeks. Fortunately, I don't have that problem, but it can work for certain people, and I'm not giving you any medical advice. If you listen to me about medical issues, then, you'll wind up in about the same position as if you listen to me about financial issues. I know what I'm talking about, but I'm not in the position to give you any advice. I'm just recounting my experiences to you. But I feel so much better now. I figure if I lose 10 pounds, if I have any more energy, I'll be like a 20-year-old. I don't know what I'm going to do. Another thing he says is you got to get 8 to 10 hours worth of sleep each night because he said it's a blood pressure thing. When you don't get 8 to 10 hours, it affects your blood pressure. So I totally trust this man. I highly recommend that you go to the site that I just recommended to you. Take it. It says I'm at a high risk of getting heart disease, but like I say, I had the stress test done. My heart is like somebody who's 20 years younger. It's from the exercise for sure. That site again, simpleheart411.com. So keep an eye on that because you'll feel better. You'll be less prone to get disease, especially as you get older. I'm only sorry that I didn't do this earlier, but I probably wasn't ready to. I didn't have the mindset to really go about doing the things that I needed to do to really take the necessary actions. And it's not a question of sacrifice. I mean, I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, you can't believe this, but honestly, I am enjoying this salad as much right now as I ever enjoyed a piece of pizza or a hamburger or a sausage sandwich, if you can believe that. And I think she looked at me like I was nuts, but it was really true. I enjoy my salads as much as I ever enjoyed unhealthy food in the past. So that's what that's about. So, hey, looking back on 2013, even though they're pushing for gun control, this insane administration, do you know how many background checks there were for firearm purchasers last year? There were over 21 million background checks for firearm purchases, and you could purchase up to 3 firearms at a time. Can you believe that? So potentially there could have been 63 million firearm purchases. Let's just call it 1.5 purchases per background check. That means that you're looking at about 32 million firearms purchased last year. And that's not even including the private deals that took place. So 40, 50 million firearms purchased, and God only knows how much ammunition was purchased. And every time the administration threatens more gun control, there will be upticks in the amount of firearms purchased. It's just the way it is. That's the way it works. And that's why they keep awarding the president firearms salesman or gun salesman of the year award. You want to keep those firearms purchases going high, hitting records, just keep threatening gun control. I mean, I told the story so many times. My grandmother told me this story. May she rest in peace. But before Prohibition, before they banned alcohol, 16th Amendment, the Volstead Act, she told me the story that they hardly had any alcohol in her home, like a bottle or two. And then all of a sudden they ban alcohol, prohibition. And what happens? They've got cases of apricot brandy and vodka and scotch, and they didn't even drink. But, somebody might come over and they might want to drink. I mean, if you want to increase demand for a product, like Mark Twain said, just make it scarce. And you really want to make something scarce, just ban it. And you will make it more scarce than anything else. Threaten people with imprisonment, and they just can't get enough of it, whether it's marijuana, whether it's hashish, heroin. And, I'm not advocating the use of any of this. In fact, I'm against the use of it. I think that drugs can really be negative. I mean, stuff like marijuana, hashish, kids should not be using it, but it's far less destructive than drugs or than alcohol. You know that. I know it. We all know people who are doing it. Moderation is the key. The less you use of it, the better. Occasional recreational use of alcohol and other marijuana, other drugs is not really going to do you a lot of harm. But look, you don't need me to tell you this. It's obvious. But prohibitions against anything are just not the way to go. You know it. I know it. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But we'll talk more about this up next. FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz, 1230 WBZT. These are tough times, and they're getting even tougher. The clock is ticking. The countdown to collapse is well underway. What are you going to do about it? Will you just wait for it to happen, or will you be ready when it happens? The decision is yours and yours alone. Join myself, Mickey Fulp, Robert Ian, David Morgan, Jeff Berwick, Elijah Johnson, Alan Butler, Gregory Manarino, Daniel Amaduri, Andy Hoffman, Tekoa Da Silva, Trace Mayer, one of the world's leading Bitcoin authorities, Bix Weir, Jay Taylor, and Gary Christensen at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium in Las Vegas on February 21st and 22nd, and learn how to create your plan to survive the collapse. The last Liberty Mastermind Symposium was one of the most highly rated conferences ever, and this one promises to be even better. Don't miss it. Join us and register now at libertymastermind.us. libertymastermind.us. This one is going to be out of this world, and it's going to be even better because it's in Las Vegas, Nevada. Go to Liberty Mastermind US and sign up today. We're back. So, Obamacare. This is a great story. The bunch of state attorneys general, they want Obama to enforce Obamacare because he keeps changing the rules as he goes along. They figure out it's not workable now, let's just change it. And the proper way to change a law is to go to Congress, submit a law. The president can submit a change of the law to Congress. They vote on it. They send it back to him and he signs it. But that's too much trouble for this administration. So what do? They just do waivers. They do repeals of the mandates. They delay the mandates. They delay income verification requirements, exclude union plans from the fee. And they keep changing this thing, and it's all unconstitutional. Every legal scholar out there says it's unconstitutional, and now a bunch of state attorneys general are saying the same thing they said in a December 26th letter to Catherine Sebelius, or is she Annie Lennox? I'm not sure. Did they appoint Annie Lennox as the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and she changed her name to Catherine Sebelius? I don't know. But 11 attorney generals, led by West Virginia's Patrick Morrissey, raised multiple objections to Obama's decision, under which the president left it up to state regulators and insurance companies to work out whether they were going to abide by Obamacare's legal requirements. And the letter is also signed by the AGs of Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kansas, Louisiana, Michigan, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Texas, and Virginia. And he argued that Obama's decision violated the president's oath of office, his promise to faithfully execute the laws. And the Supreme Court has ruled that in narrow circumstances, such as a federal agency's need to allocate limited enforcement resources, there might be room for enforcement discretion by the executive branch, but you can't just you can't rewrite laws. I mean, Obama's executive action also requires insurers who want to be exempted from the enforcement of the rules to provide a notice specifying the benefits that won't be available under the grandfathered plan that otherwise would be available under an Obamacare compliant plan. And, I mean, it's just insane. And, you know, he does this with laws all the time. It's not right. And they should have done something a long time ago about this, but nobody has stood up to this guy. They're all scared of him. And I don't blame them, because who knows if they're reading all your email, listening to all your phone calls, what else are they capable of? I mean, and speaking of lawsuits, there's a really cool lawsuit here in California that could be pretty cool. California's laws surrounding teacher tenure, dismissal, and layoffs, according to a bunch of students, they say it violates the state's constitution, specifically students' right to an equal opportunity to access quality education. So there's 9 students, they're suing the state, and there's a trial that's been set for January 27th. So understand, they're saying like, the students say that because the law protects incompetent teachers and downright grossly incompetent, sometimes criminally incompetent teachers, sometimes teachers that are criminals, you're depriving me of my right to an education, my equal opportunity to get quality education under the law. And they argue that minority and poor students are most in need of effective teachers and least likely in California to be taught by them. And this gal, Sandy Jacobs, vice president for the National Council on Teacher Quality, she says that research has shown that inside the school building, nothing matters more than the quality of the teachers. Unfortunately, outside the school building, nothing matters more than the quality of the parents, and there's really nothing that any of us could do about it other than to put the kid into orphanages and then have the state be the parent. Well, that isn't going to work too much. And she says an effective teacher and a highly effective teacher make a really significant difference in the trajectory of their students, and the same is true in the negative capacity for an ineffective teacher. So other factors like parents' level of education are also correlated with student performance. But, you know, as far as factors like schools can control, teacher quality matters more than any other variable, she said. But, like I say, you could have the best teachers in the world teaching, but if the students' parents aren't firmly behind them getting a good education, ain't going to matter. But this is really a shot across the bow of the teachers' unions, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens. So, hey, here's a funny story that I love. This is really great. In New Jersey, my former home state, where I grew up, the governor's henchmen were upset with the mayor of Fort Lee, who happens to be a Democrat, Chris Christie, who I like. grew up in the town next to the town I grew up in. He grew up in Livingston. We both have what you would call a turnpike accent, which I never heard till they had to come up with a term describing Christie's accent. They just, for the hell of it, had the Port Authority shut down a couple of lanes going onto the bridge from Fort Lee. There's a little secret shortcut that we know about, us New Jerseyans, and it caused massive tie-ups in Fort Lee. It hindered emergency vehicles getting to sick people. One woman died purportedly as a result of it, of the vehicles being delayed, ambulance being delayed getting to her. And, now the emails have come out, and it was political payback for this mayor of Fort Lee who declined to endorse Christie. And this is really government thuggery at its worst. You got to treat all politicians, when you're the leader of the state, the same. Now, I don't believe Christie told them to do this. I just don't believe it. But, these power-crazed, insane sociopaths that infiltrate government at every level, this is the type of power-happy, crazed, power trip that they're on. And this is the kind of thing that they do. And finally, these people had to be fired. And, it's potentially a criminal issue, especially because somebody died. And you just can't let this type of thing go on. I mean, there's enough traffic in New Jersey and Fort Lee. That's where the George Washington Bridge crosses the Hudson going into the Bronx, or rather Washington Heights in Manhattan. And, there's traffic jams coming out the wazoo. And for somebody to do this is just an awful thing. And they lied about it, evidently. I don't think Christie did, but bad thing. And, hey, Christie's going to take a hit. I don't think it'll be that big a deal in the long run. But for right now, he's feeling the heat, and not very presidential for a guy who's going to be running for president, right? But we'll get over it somehow. Somehow he'll be okay. He'll make it through. His aides are already falling on the sword, right? Hey, here's an interesting story just as an aside. Would you believe that in 2013, Apple's app sales, that's for the iPhone and the iPad, they sold $10 billion worth of them. And in December alone, they sold $1 billion worth of apps. And that comes out to about $3 billion in profit for Apple, which is a drop in the bucket for them. But, I mean, that's just an amazing number. In December alone, I think they said they sold 3 billion apps. I mean, huge number. Just a little trivia, just to keep you informed, let you know what's going on here. Hey, by the way, Liberty Mastermind Symposium, be there in Vegas. Dinner is February 21. That's Friday. The symposium's February 22nd. Wayne Allen Root is our keynote speaker at the dinner on Friday. We got Robert Ian. He's doing it with me again. He's the mastermind. David Morgan, Jeff Berwick, Andy Hoffman, Elijah Johnson, Mickey Fulp. We got Daryl Robert Schoon. He's one of my favorites. Turd Ferguson, man. Turd, I can't believe he's making it this time. Andy Hoffman, Kevin Drost, Gregory Manarino, Daniel Amaduri, Takoa De Silva, man, he is amazing. Jeff Berwick, Gary Christensen, Jerry Robinson, Follow the Money, Alan Butler, Trace, Bitcoin Mayor, one of the foremost authorities on Bitcoin. I think John Rubino is going to be there. Jay Taylor, I believe, is going to be there. So libertymastermind.us. It's cheap. It's $299. Most of these conferences charge you $1,000. We've got discount at the hotel, $119 a night. It's at the Embassy Suites, a non-gaming property, so you don't have to hear ding, ding, ding of the slot machines all night. We don't make any money on this thing. It's basically, we want to connect with you. We want to see who is listening. We want to meet you. That's why. It's all it is. Alan Butler, partner of mine in Liberty Radio, Liberty Express Radio. It's going to be great. I promise you, you're going to love it. Okay. If you don't love it, we'll talk about a refund, but we've never had to make one yet. And we won't this time either. And I love doing this, and I love seeing you at these symposiums. It's what makes doing this show so satisfying to me. So sign up now. I promise you, you're going to love it. I love doing it. And up next, we got the real story on the horse-drawn carriage ban that New York's commie mayor Bill de Blasio is trying to impose on the city. FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com, 1230 WBZT. We are back. I'm Kerry Lutz. Triple Lutz Report 330, FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com, 1230 BZT. So remember, we talked about de Blasio. He's promising to ban New York City's iconic horse-drawn carriages. You take them around Central Park. They charge you a fortune, but they're picturesque. They're fun. It's old New York. They've been doing these horse-drawn carriage rides since 1858. And somehow these horses are not dropping like flies. And they passed a new law in 2010. These horses are getting treated better than you and I get treated, and fed better too. I mean, I don't think they're having heart attacks and cancer and hardening of the arteries and whatever. And basically, the mayor's critics suggest it's a corruption scandal masquerading as an animal rights crusade. The defenders of the carriage industry point to a real estate executive who is one of de Blasio's major campaign donors as the driving force behind the effort to abolish the carriages. Eva Hughes says it's got everything a scandal could ever want. She's the vice president of the Horse and Carriage Association of New York. She herself spent 16 years driving carriages, and her husband still drives a carriage, and she says they are fighting a David and Goliath battle against the mayor and his big money backers. And wait till you hear this. It's just going to make your blood boil. And the bad guy in this drama, according to the carriage drivers, is Steve Nislik. He's former chief executive of New Jersey-based real estate development company Edison Properties. And they employ legions of lobbyists to influence city decisions on real estate and zoning in its favor. And two of Edison's businesses have multiple locations in the same Far West Midtown neighborhood as the stables where the Central Park horses are housed. Imagine that. And an anti-carriage pamphlet that Nislik circulated in 2008 made this interesting observation. Currently, the stables consist of 64,000 square feet of valuable real estate on lots that could accommodate up to 150,000 square feet of development. These lots could be sold for new development. So, what are the odds that good neighbor Nislik, the out-of-state real estate developer, simply covets those valuable, underdeveloped New York lots and has teamed up with ambitious Pauls to use the emotions of animal rights activists as fuel for their own agendas? And he just happens to have founded a 501c4 group called New Yorkers for Clean, Livable, and Safe Streets, NYC, or NY Class, that spent big money to elect de Blasio mayor. as Chris Bragg of Crane's New York Business reported in October. And they're putting tons of money, phone banks, leafleting. I mean, they're driving, the American Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals to try to get them against the horses. And, this is what they're doing is they're just, in the guise of trying to protect animals, this is a real estate grab, plain and simple. 150,000 square feet of, times 1,000, you're looking at $150 million potentially of profits or potential revenues. They're just looking to grab the property from where they're currently housing the stables. And basically, you said we were screaming it from the rooftops, but we couldn't get anybody to pay attention. And now, all of a sudden, it's coming out. And as this story in The Spectator said, thespectator.org, the inhumane irony is that the left-wing mayor, Comrade de Blasio, as somebody calls him, claims to have the interest of New York's working class at heart, but has decided to abolish several small businesses that employ the city's working class. And it's a blue-collar job. I don't know how blue-collar it is, but, you tip them. I mean, it's just disgusting. And, if I go to Edison, the Edison Corporation, and I look at their website on the web, now, I know this company really well, and I'll tell you all about them shortly. So Edison started out, I believe, as a parking lot company. And I don't know if they're legit or not. They appear to be. So here's their website. And, they get tons of cash. That's what parking companies do. Not as much as they used to. Most people use credit cards now, but they used to be major cash cows. And a real estate leader for more than 57 years, the segments in which we specialize include parking, mini storage, small offices, and flexible workspaces. In addition, we own and operate a 650,000 square foot Class A office building, and we built and manage a 243-unit, 23-story residential apartment tower in Manhattan. And they can, it's a real estate company that started out as a parking lot managing company. So, they've got a bunch of buildings all over Manhattan, and they want that property over on the far west side of Manhattan. I believe if it's a property, I think it is, because I've seen the carriages go there at the end of the day. It's probably got river views, or it will when the tower's erected. I think there's not much there between the property and the West Side Highway. It'll have magnificent river views, and the properties will sell for a major premium. So they're trying to grab it. They want to build a big, nice, mixed-use residential office tower there. Because of the policies of the Federal Reserve, there's huge malinvestment taking place in real estate in Manhattan. Prices are going through the roof. And that, like Martin Armstrong said, it's going to continue. International dollars are just making that real estate market go through the roof, and they want their piece of it. That's what it's about. Follow the money, as our good friend Jerry Robinson of FTM Daily says. We love Jerry, bright guy, extremely talented, gifted writer. Suggest you go over there if you haven't already. Read what he has to say. So, Comrade de Blasio is really just a crony capitalist and is paying off friends. So, it's not about the horses, because there's 200 carriage horses. What's going to happen to the carriage horses? they're going to be sold off because the operators won't be able to afford to put them out to pasture and pay $500,000 a year when they have no money coming in. They're going to be sent to Canada and Mexico, killed, turned into dog food, or maybe McDonald's for all we know. Just kidding. Satire. Don't sue me, McDonald's. Point is, once they're no longer pulling carriages, their days are numbered. So for a guy who cares about these horses, he's sending them to near certain death. That's what this is about. Don't get taken in by cruelty to animals. It's all a front. And these animals are bred to pull carriages, and they're treated well because, look, everybody's going to treat these horses well because they're how the drivers make their living. You don't want to abuse that horse and take years off his life and make him lose time from pulling the carriage because he's sick and can't do his job. You're going to treat the horse and keep him as healthy as possible. That's how this is done. So anyway, don't be surprised about anything. This is always how it works. And de Blasio is no different than any other politician. He's just a socialist, and he's got a different agenda, but he still has to pay off his supporters. Remember. Okay? Kerry Lutz on the Financial Survival Network. It's been another Triple Lutz Report, signing off. Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you. What happens if the collapse never really comes? You need income, and Jason Hartman can help you get it. He's helped thousands of people realize their dreams of financial independence through real estate investing, and now he's got an unbeatable offer for you. He's offering my ebook, Forget Wall Street, Go for the Gold and Silver Too, for free. Just visit jasonhartman.com/Lutz. The first 100 Financial Survival Network listeners will get the book free. Remember, you can't afford to put all your eggs in one basket. Real estate should be part of a balanced investment portfolio along with gold and silver. Just go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz and sign up today. When it comes to real estate investing, Jason Hartman is the only person we trust on the Financial Survival Network. So make your money work as hard as you do by building an income property empire. Real estate is America's proven investment. Go to www.jasonhartman.com/Lutz and get your free ebook today. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. Jason knows how to help you retire with a portfolio of income-producing property. Go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.